Welcome everybody to our vlog today, and especially to you, Rakesh Bandipelli, the circular economy guy, the supply chain extraordinaire, and a good friend as well, in no particular order. So welcome, man.
Thank you. That's a very kind introduction. There's a lot's happening there, but I'll take it.
Take it where you can get it, buddy.
Yes, I
Hey,
will.
this was a topic that you suggested. Why
Yes,
don't
I
you
did.
introduce?
It's all over the news. It's all over media, and it's a lot very topical. And for me, it's all around what does it really impact us as an industry and as a consumer. So the topic obviously is around the recent US tariff imposed on the economy and obviously the global economy,
Yep.
and all the games that have been played. At one point, you see, look at it and you laugh, hoping that hopefully someone knows what's going on. And at one stage, you look at it as like, who knows what's going on anymore? But no matter what happens, we are all in this ecosystem. We all have to play our part. It
Mm,
will impact us, and it's so connected. And
mm,
one way or the other, we're all going to get impacted. So we've got to be mindful and cautious, and then sort of navigate our way through. Okay, if this is happening, what else should we be worried about as a business? And
mm.
understand what could be the potential impact, and trying to be, I guess, a few steps ahead, and then making sure we mitigate some of the risk. So
Mm.
yeah, that's probably
100%.
the topic. Yeah.
It is a global economy, and
Yeah.
therefore there's ripple effects all around the world when something like this happens. And it just
Yep.
happens to be between our two major trading partners, number one being China and number two being the US. And
Yep.
it's a bit like being caught in friendly fire, right? It's just like, so the US
Yep.
does this, and it's to the majority of it is to defend itself against China, and we're sort of caught in the crossfire, as is a lot of other countries that would call themselves allies to the US. So it is interesting times, and I'm with you. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen because it affects so many things to such a degree. I don't think that you can predict how this is going to pan out.
Yep.
On a macro level, I guess we're looking at most of the goods coming out of China that were destined for the US will no longer be going there. They're just going to be too expensive. So
Yep.
supply and demand says that, well, there's going to be a surplus of inventory and
Yep.
pricing will come down. So I think there's some positives for us in Australia and some negatives. So positive would be, I think that the cost of Chinese goods will go down. So consumers
Yep.
in Australia will love that.
Yep.
Now, the negative, and it's a big negative, of course, is that there's going to be reduced demand. And
Yep.
who do we send well over 60% of our resources to? Of course, we export it to China, who
Yep.
will have reduced demand, which means that that's really going to hit our resource sector, obviously our major industry. So there's some pros and some cons there, probably more cons than pros. But what is your view on that, Rakesh?
Yes, I guess, where was it? And again, trying to be very positive, but one of
Mm.
the events I've been to, Stephen Bartlett's
Oh
event,
yes,
the
yes, yes,
Dairy of CEO.
yeah.
He was mentioning about the change that is about to happen, especially in the last few years, and it's going to happen at a rapid pace.
Mm.
He was comparing like 10-year time frame, and then the reference was the current rate of change now is happening so fast, which is normally in a previous last 10 years, it would have taken up 90 days, but the
Mm.
change is now happening within 6 to 7 days. So we got to adopt to these
Mm.
changes, right?
Mm.
And then one other thing also was expected disruption every 2 to 3 years in supply chain, major disruption.
Mm.
And the trend is almost following that, starting with COVID and then Panama Canal issues, Suez Canal issue, sorry, and then AdBlue issue, and then now this. So there's always something's going on.
Mm.
And as business owners, I guess, like managing companies and CEOs and everything,
Yep.
you just gotta be super mindful and prepare for the unexpected with only things what you have in control, I guess. you can't really do a lot of things out of control. So
it's yet another disruption, isn't it, Rakesh?
yeah,
And so where there's any disruption, we
yeah,
see that there's opportunities
yeah,
and there's some challenges.
yeah,
So
yeah.
where are the threats?
Yeah. So for me, the threats probably are lying around.
Mhm.
Like if I took major industries, I think some stats around imports from China. So Australia imports close to 27% of all our goods are coming from China, which is being the number one out of all the countries, which I
Mhm.
actually thought was a lot bigger than that
Mhm.
initially. But
Mhm.
then I was sort of going through some statistics,
Yep.
and what the key ones are electrical equipment, machinery, and some vehicles, obviously, and all the components and the raw materials and a lot of garments and textiles and everything.
Mm.
So I believe this will impact the cost, which is one major thing, because obviously same thing like you was mentioning, the
Yep.
supply and demand game.
Yep. It'll come
If
down.
there is a constraint, the demand will slow down, the supply cost will increase. So expectation is that our cost will go increase,
Yep.
which is the product itself, and then the supply chain disruption. So you've
Mm.
got all these vessels coming back and forth, and I can't even imagine how busy the whole traffic's going to be.
Mm.
And then you have one big event happening in one spot, and
Mm.
then the disruption it can cause that could lead to a lot of supply chain issues.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I can just see, Rakesh, a whole lot of shifty stuff happening now, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
now all of a
exactly.
sudden, that little sticker that says, s- origin sourced, the country of origin is going
Yeah,
to be so important, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's going to be many million dollar sticker in a lot of cases, right? And
yeah,
I bet you a whole lot of dodgy stuff is going to happen, and things that are
yeah.
sourced in China will no longer be sourced in China.
No, no,
What do you reckon?
unfortunately, yeah, it's just a big political game. And I think it's like even a lot of big companies already taken steps forward. We're talking, we dub Volkswagen Group, the
Mm.
world's second largest company, which almost what they got a lot of brands, Audi, Porsche, Bentley, Skoda, Lamborghini, and
Yep.
the new cars we're seeing, Cupra or Cupra, Cupra.
Oh
So
yeah.
they actually put all these cars on hold in China
Mm.
now because of the 25% extra tariff. They're not going
Mm.
to US anymore.
Mm. Mm.
But obviously it's a different driving system, so they've got to figure out what markets do they fit into. Which means, again, in my supply chain brain, okay, so all these ports are congested in China now. So which means if there is any other containers that are coming to Australia, which is a smaller market, they will get delayed
Mm.
because the ports in China now are all congested with all this additional inventory from all sorts of manufacturing was supposed to go to the US. They're all on hold.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I can just think about the
Yeah.
turbulence it will create at different levels.
Mm.
And it's something we are used to in supply chain. We're always ready to fight and then look
Mm.
for alternates
Supply
and
chain
everything that
equals
needs to happen.
challenges, right? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
comes with the turf. All right. So what
So,
what are the opportunities? What can you see? There's a lot of disruption, a lot of people
yeah.
caught off guard. So where are the opportunities for supply chain and for Australia?
I guess I'm sure a lot of lessons been learned through COVID. So one major thing is I'm not trying to isolate China, but relying on one single resource, whether it could be production or it could be knowledge perspective, it could be anything. It's always important to reduce reliance on single source.
Mm.
So that's one thing
It's a
as an
COVID lesson,
opportunity
isn't it?
to. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's important. I'm sure companies would have learned from that, and then sort of diversify your profile. That's opportunity,
Mm.
and market gaps. Again, like I was mentioning earlier,
Mm.
Australian beef, high demand.
Yep.
Now US beef is not going to China anymore, so I can see obviously there's increased demand, which again opens up a lot of opportunities into that space. And then
Mm.
I think a lot of Australian companies can sort of focus onto what are all the products that are going into China, because China is always preferring high quality, especially from a food side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that will open up a lot of doors to Australian producers, especially we got a very rich lifestyle here with a lot of quality, healthy, nutritious, I guess, farming and dairy as well. So I think
very
that will
pure.
open up.
Yeah.
Yeah, very pure.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's another massive opportunity, I guess, for industries who are here looking to export
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah,
I guess if in industries in Australia that currently
yeah,
have competitors in China
yeah,
that export to the US, I mean, this will
yeah,
be a heyday for them, right? All of a sudden,
yeah,
those cheap Chinese exports to the US are no longer cheap anymore, right? And we
yeah.
are, and all of a sudden we're competitive. So there has to be some new markets there for Australian goods going to the US.
Yes, yep, totally. And yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and along those lines, I guess attracting US and regional firms relocating their production out of China. So, the most obvious one, and it probably isn't something that's going to be for Australia, but what Apple, Apple has got a lot of problems at the moment, right, with most of their manufacturing out of China.
Yeah.
And I saw a report that in the US, with the current tariffs, an iPhone would cost 3,500 US dollars.
Whoa.
So that's an expensive phone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And
Uh,
I was speaking to quite a few different freight forwarders,
mm,
and one thing is you change all these decisions and you make all these decisions, and with operational brain, I'm always thinking, how effectively can this be executed? How much chaos it's probably causing in all the custom broker area on the freight forwarding side, because you need to clear everything. All this needs to be lodged on time.
mm,
And I'm definitely someone who thinks about the why, but also I'm always thinking into the how of everything's executed.
yep.
And talking to some freight forwarders, it's chaos already. Trying to
Mm,
figure out, okay, the nuts and bolts on when it's been applied. Is it on the water? Has it been left? Or is it when it's arrived to the dock? And because there's so
mm,
much product already in transit.
yep.
No, it's definitely a bit of another turbulent time, and this is
Mm.
not a natural disaster. It's a created disruption, as we all know, and unfortunately, that's the
We
position
we
state
haven't
we are
even
in.
called it a Trump tariff yet, and oh, damn it, I just did it.
I didn't want it to call it. I didn't want it
I know.
to.
It's
Yeah,
too late now.
yeah,
It's done. That's the last time.
yeah. And I
Tell me,
guess
tell me. Yep, go ahead.
no, sorry. One thing I definitely not positive, but I think we've got to see some positive out of everything,
Mm,
and especially from an Australian market, I believe some of our suppliers now should really look at this and then probably go back to some of our Chinese suppliers or
yep.
manufacturing, especially because that's such a big trade war now. This could be a potential opportunity to do some bulk buying because of the reduce, because there probably is a lot of produced finished product already there in certain categories. Again, we've got to drip deal into it and negotiate some better deals and bring the product over. So then you've got to end up financially as soon it's going to happen, and then all that stuff. So
Mm.
and in the
Oh, there'll be
market,
some bargains happening, I'm sure.
yeah, that's
Mm,
what I reckon. And hearing from industry, there's a lot of empty warehouses as well. So you
mm.
might be able to fill up some warehouses with some additional
Okay.
inventory, just be
Mm,
ready in time for your end of financial year selling, and then
yeah.
hopefully leading into that Christmas sale, and you're not cut short on production.
I'm betting that going beyond that, there'll be some inventory that is dumped in Australia, like dirt cheap, which is just another disruption
Yeah,
that will
yeah,
have if that product is competing with Australian businesses.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
And
Rakesh, I'm thinking, what country should we
yeah,
cozy up to?
I wonder which country is as close as China. Hmm. Of
Yeah.
course,
All right.
yeah. What, what,
It's
what,
India,
what do you
right?
think? Yeah, it is
Yeah.
India. Like, I think there's a lot of shift already happening towards that direction anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen on socials, there's like a news going around. There's 5 airplanes worth of Apple iPhones being
Mm.
freighted to India. Have you seen it on socials?
I did, but they may have wasted their money because the tariffs are on pause at the moment, right? So
Yes.
it's almost
Yeah.
like as soon as the planes landed, the tariffs were paused. So
Yeah.
Apple can't win.
Uh, yes. I wonder what's the transport, what is the sustainability goal around reducing target emissions and all that. I don't know if this fits into that
Yeah,
vision,
I,
but
I saw your
anyway,
post, mate. I saw your
yeah,
post on that.
yeah, it's already done. So, but yeah, like India is definitely one of the places. But I think it's a
It's
bit of a
like fast
reminder.
growth, isn't it? Like fast growth, massive demand,
Yeah,
no or fewer geographical strings attached.
yeah, and but in saying that, I'm mindful that
Mm.
countries should look at adopting more sustainable practices, keeping things closer to where the consumers are.
Yeah,
As much
sure.
as I would say India was the next superpower and all that stuff,
Mm.
I believe we don't need superpowers. Like we just need a bit more balanced economy, so
Yeah.
everyone's sort of working with each
So
other.
shorter
Yeah.
supply chains.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and I
Agreed. Yeah.
remember we were speaking about shorter supply chains, and again we spoke about Apple having one of the most longest supply chains you could ever
Yes.
imagine, right?
Yep. Yep.
And look which company has taken a big hit when something like this happens. The
Yep.
company with a really long supply chain.
Yes.
Mm,
So yeah, so yes, definitely India. There's a lot of trade already happening in Indian market and everything, and surprisingly, the Indian government hasn't reacted anything to additional tariffs. So I'm pretty
mm,
sure there's another sort of a game going on behind the scenes between
hmm
Trump and Modi because personalities are the same. It's a bit
hmm
more of a yeah, it's all
They could
about
have a
me
frank
personality.
discussion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So. But yeah, like yeah, there's opportunities, but also equal disruption, and I
Mm,
believe you can only sort of work through what you can control, and there's a lot of things out of control. That's something we can't do
yeah.
anymore. Yeah, so
That's right. Yeah. It's some
yep,
things we can control, some things we can't. A lot of media coverage, Rakesh, on the tariffs, of course.
yep.
Have you, what do you think the media has got wrong? Is there something that comes to mind that this isn't right?
Um, I feel, but it's not just about this particular topic with media.
Mm,
It's almost like banks and insurance companies' terms and conditions apply. So you've got to be
mm,
read your words very carefully on all these publications and everything, and
mm,
sort of filtering out real versus fake news, I guess.
mm,
And there's a
mm,
lot of assumptions as well, and a lot of these media companies on the fine print you'll see words like assumptions, hearing from sources, and everything, but it's not a
mhm.
confirmed decision.
It's a
And I'm thinking
disclaimer,
to
isn't it? A
yeah, and I'm
subtle
thinking to
disclaimer.
myself. Yeah, I get the media attention, but really, do you need to do this now out of all the chaos that's already happening? Why would you add another thing?
Mm.
But I guess, unfortunately, that's how companies operate. I guess I don't know. Like that's how media companies operate to gain TRPs and all the additional momentum. Yeah.
Yeah, I see
What do you
that.
think?
I
Yeah.
think that the media is way heavy on the damage this is doing to China,
Yeah.
and I think they underestimate how much damage this is doing to the American economy as well, because
Yep.
the US economy is so reliant on Chinese goods.
Yep.
The price of those Chinese goods will be going through the roof, and that's
Yep.
going to impact a lot of companies. I mean, Apple is just the tip of the iceberg. It goes all the way down the food chain. And
Yep.
there'll be a lot of American companies that are really hurting, and many will be going out of business.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
You think of, they make a car battery. They've got a big auto industry in the US. They make a car battery, and most of those components come from China. They assemble them in the US, but most of the components come from China.
Yep.
Those car batteries aren't going to be priced the way they used to. So
Yeah.
everyone in the US is going to be paying for it.
Yeah. So to break it down to like some of our end audience who are listening to, let's just say a Nike shoe is imported at $100. You add another 125% tariff, even though Nike is US based business, I guess, headquartered,
Hmm
but it's a
Yep.
Chinese manufacturing. So you
Mm.
import $100 Nike to the country. So your actual landed cost will become $225 because your 125% tariff you're going to pay, plus
Mm.
your shipping and all that stuff. So that
Mm.
by the time the shoes gets to the end audience,
Mm.
we're talking now 350 or something for
Mm.
companies to make some retail profit.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
look, the US have tried tariffs before
Yeah.
with China, sort of as punishment for copyright infringement and all sorts of things. And
Yeah.
they've never really made any headway. And I guess
Yeah.
the logic behind these tariffs is that they are so high that they have to make some impact. I guess that's where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So if
And
you're
can I?
talking to a supply chain leader, Rakesh, what would you
Yeah.
tell them? What is the way to go with these tariffs? Have you got any advice?
I guess if I have to frame it down to sort of three things, diversification, like I said before, that's
Mhm.
number one. In terms of if you haven't learned your lesson in COVID, this is another good opportunity. And if you already done it, maybe further explore the options. So it will give you more stability, I guess, into your supply chain. Number two, sort of going back to technology and innovation. So again, investing in more digital supply chain, so you have more visibility into your supply chain. So
Yep.
I think it's getting even more and more important. With
Yep.
also my sustainability hat, it's important to have a full visibility into your supply chain, all the way to upstream and downstream, so you can react quickly to these disruptions. And then probably the third thing is obviously the financial strategy. So you can implement better practices around inefficiencies to help your offset your increasing cost, because there's guarantee you're going to pay high importing rates now. There's going to be container rates are going to go up,
Mhm.
most likely. So having a better grip on your finances will sort of give you a bit of leverage. Okay, there's other parts of the business. Maybe I should cut down some costs now to stabilize finances for the business until the things settle down. So,
Mm.
so I guess, yeah, it goes down to diversification, technology and innovation, and financial strategic planning. So, yeah,
Mm. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. I agree with those. I'd add just one, and like supply chain leaders are used to having risk verticals, and I think
yeah.
trade policy needs to be one of those as well. So I'm sure a
Good
pandemic
point.
is
Yeah.
is in there now, but now trade policies is another thing to
Yeah,
consider and to factor in on the total risk to the business and
yeah,
their supply chains.
yeah.
Good
One last thing
chatting.
I should
Yep.
say,
You go for it,
uh,
man. Yep.
which is completely opposite to all the discussions we had, is my circular supply chain hat
Yep.
gives me a little bit of tiny hope. This will sort of push consumers to stop for a second, think before they buy because of the increased cost. Given US is one of the biggest importers of product and they're the biggest landfill, like the amount of
Mm.
waste per user is apparently in US again top stacks number one.
It is, yeah.
So for me, this is a little bit of a hope as well that all this will sort of make the consumers, hopefully in US and other parts of the world, make them think, okay, maybe this is the time for me to sort of look around what I already have. Do I need to buy more stuff now just because it's cheaper?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then bring back that mantra, which I always keep telling everyone, be a consumer, be a citizen first before you be a consumer. So citizen first, consumer next.
I love that. At
So
the end of the
yeah.
day, there's no use having a whole lot of stuff if we don't have a planet to live on, right?
Yes, exactly. So citizen first, consumer next. So this sort of
Love it.
gives a
Mm.
little bit of tiny hope that, okay, maybe it's just a thing for everyone to think about. So yeah, anyways, so yeah,
Great. All right. Amazing talking to you once again, Rakesh. And
as
let's
always,
see how this one pans out.
yep. Well, thank you. All right, I'll speak to you soon.
We'll do. Thanks, man.
Thank you.